What is up, Hawk fans? The Iowa Hawkeyes just defeated the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Big Ten men's basketball tournament, 77-70. Let's dive right in, shall we? Ohio State got off to a good start to the game early. I believe it was a 6-0 lead. I believe they hit 2 3-pointers. Iowa battled back. First half was pretty much back and forth. Let me get the stats pulled up here. Tied going into the second half. And then in the second half, pretty much the same thing. I think Ohio State took the lead one time in the second half, but Iowa hit multiple shots, especially a big one at the end from Brock Harding. Josh Dix did have double figures, but he did also have two really silly over dribble turnovers. That is one of the slight drawbacks to his game. It's a benefit and it's a drawback. Oftentimes at these levels, these players are so good, so skilled, that what makes them great can also be used against them because it is what they do. It's their tendency, as they would say in football. And Josh Dix likes to use the between the legs, and he wants to have the defensive players play at his pace, rather than them getting him to speed up. And twice, Ohio State defenders were able to shoot the gap and get a turnover. But still, I mean, he still had a decent game. Let me read this from 247 Hawkeye Insider. Iowa's losing streak to Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament has ended. The Hawkeyes, that's so true. Ohio State has really had Iowa's number in the Big Ten tournament. It seems like Iowa plays Ohio State all the freaking time in the Fran McCaffrey era in the Big Ten tournament. The Hawkeyes took down the Buckeyes 77-70 on Wednesday night in the opening round of the Big Ten Tourney. It was a slow start for both teams, as is usually the case playing in a different new arena. The Hawkeyes were 0-4 from the field with 3 turnovers in their first 7 possessions at the under-16 timeout. Ohio State didn't have much going either, as the Buckeyes were 0-5 from the field with all their points coming from the free throw line. Iowa's first points came at the 14:09 mark as Lajai Dembele got a putback to make it 6-2. So I was right, 6-0. The Hawkeyes were able to tie it up at under 12 timeout at 8, with Josh Dix taking it hard to the rim for a bucket. A Peyton Sanford mid-range jumper and a crafty layup by Brock Harding. Brock Harding has played solid lately, I got to say, and it's good to see his confidence go up. I always knew that it was going to be an adjustment for him, not because he didn't have the skill or the quickness, but he does lack size. And of all the positions in basketball, to me, the point guard and center positions are the ones that take the longest to materialize and develop once they get to college. Not always, but often. And he's really coming on strong lately off the bench. He's making a case to be a starter at this point. I actually thought when Drew Thelwell was out that Brock Harding actually played well enough to be in the conversation to remain the starter. I understand why Fran McCaffrey went back to Drew Thelwell, and I wasn't against it per se, but still. So I'll talk about that here momentarily. Iowa's defense was stout, which is not generally the case for the Hawks. Iowa was forcing Ohio State into tough looks. Very true. Iowa, this, again, I know I said this in the last game. This really was, considering the opponent, probably their most complete performance of the season. Given it was the Big Ten tournament, given it was Ohio State, who's this is a quad one game, they're top 40 in the net ranking. They got it done on the offensive side, just barely. I guess you could say, oddly enough, if it wasn't complete, it wouldn't be because of the defense comparatively for what Iowa is able to do. It'd be the offense. But I think over 75 for Iowa is the bare minimum for what I would consider complete. But realistically, it's probably around that 80 mark. But 75 just to be charitable. The Buckeyes and Hawkeyes went on to make 8 field goals in a row to make it 23-21 at the under 8 timeout. Teams went back and forth for the rest of the first half, with Peyton Sandfort getting going as he scored 6 points in the final 6 minutes of the half as the teams went back into the break tied 37. Iowa was 6 of 14 from 3 in the first half, while Ohio State was 10 of 13 from the free throw line, keeping the Buckeyes afloat as they shot 39.3% from the field, while Iowa was 51.7%. Harding led the way in the first half with 10 points and 3 assists in 11 minutes. Iowa got off to a strong start in the second half as the Hawkeyes were 5 of 9 from the field to start the second 20 minutes. Sandfort was a confident aggressor in the first few minutes as he opened things up with 7 points and going 3 of 5 from the field in the first 4:21. Ohio State took a 1-point lead with 8:49 remaining. Then the Hawkeyes responded back with 2 buckets from Pryce Sandfort on strong drives to the rim to make it a 3-point game. After a few punches back and forth, Iowa went on a 7-0 run over 3:49 to take a 68-61 lead thanks to Ohio State taking some questionable shots, followed by a big 3 from Pryce Sandfort to force Ohio State into calling a timeout. The Buckeyes made things interesting as they cut the lead to 2 with less than a minute left. Then Brock Harding delivered a big 3-pointer to push Iowa's lead to 5, and the Hawkeyes sealed the game with free throws. Up next, Iowa will take on Illinois in the second round of the Big Ten tournament on Thursday, March 13th. So here are my thoughts. Let me start here. Whoever is doing the highlights for Big Ten's YouTube channel sucks, okay? Anytime they're a little bit better for football, but anytime Iowa plays a team that's either ranked in the Big Ten or Ohio State or Michigan or maybe Michigan State, I already know that they are going to show 80+% those teams' highlights versus Iowa. And everybody in the comment section always comments the same thing. These highlights suck. I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know if they're outsourcing it and whoever's doing it isn't very familiar with the Big Ten and NCAA sports and just kind of does some surface level research. Is like, oh, it's Michigan. Let's do the Michigan highlights. Oh, it's Ohio State. They have more fans, and they just crunch the numbers and they go, oh, we got to show more Ohio State. It's like, okay, listen, I understand all that, but 80%, at least make it close. At least make it charitable. Make it like 60-40, 55-45. I'd be good. 60-40 I'd be good with. Maybe even 65-35 I might be, but 80+%, I mean, all these numbers I'm pulling out of the air, but I kid you guys not. Go and check out the highlights. It is 80% Ohio State. So anyways, I digress. That's number one, okay? As I said, Brock Harding had a good game. I'll go to that momentarily. I had a funny feeling that Iowa was going to win this game because, and I tried not to allow it to show too much in my most recent videos, but I have been happy in some regards with the improvement of Iowa. It hasn't been perfect, and I am under no dispersions that this, things are fixed, completely fixed. And overall, it is too little too late. But I had a funny feeling that this, especially with what we saw against Nebraska on the road, with Nebraska having everything to play for in that game, Iowa handily won that game, that they were clicking and the rotations were starting to come forward. Now, that does not let Fran McCaffery off the hook, because much like you guys in the comment section, Fran McCaffery effed up the rotations this year and a lot last year. Evan Bronze, from the moment he has got to Iowa, I have said, given the fact that Owen Freeman is not a traditional big, Lajai Dembele is certainly not a traditional big. They are small ball centers, okay, at this point in their careers. Owen Freeman's a little bit more, center than Lajai Dembele, but not by much. Iowa needed to use another big body and find minutes for them to get another element in there. I don't care if he's not the biggest offensive weapon, but I knew that that's why he wasn't seeing the court, because Fran McCaffery, in his mind, the calculations he makes is, okay, yeah, he gives us this, but what about offense? Oh, he can't shoot. He doesn't really have tons of post presence. We can only really use him in the pick and roll. And, okay, we're not going to play him very much. It's like, dude, a really, really, truly good overall coach will say to themselves, okay, you know what? He might not be the most skilled offensive player, but we are going to put the right unit around him for us to still be successful that utilizes his skill. Predominantly his rim running ability, because he's a very athletic small ball center. The dude is very athletic. I know most Iowa fans have not had a ton of opportunity to see him play, but I knew this when I went and watched his highlights coming from Belmont. The dude is super, super bouncy. Honestly, if he was more willing to work on his game, he would actually have a decent shot at playing far beyond college, because he is actually so athletic for his size. And so this, nonetheless, it's too little too late, and Fran McCaffery is not off the hook for that. Okay, he's not. I will not take him off the hook for that. There's no reason he couldn't have seen more minutes this year, which would have helped Iowa rebounding, defensively, and given another element offensively, as well as allowing Owen Freeman to have more energy for the time that he is in the game. And maybe, just maybe, he wouldn't have gotten injured because he wouldn't have been forced to play so many minutes. So I digress. But Iowa, I'm not surprised by this win. I had an inkling. When you're a fan for this long, and especially if you are knowledgeable about sports, and especially if you played sports, you start to have these. I don't want to sound like a woman here, but no, I'm kidding. But you start to have these feelings, inclinations that something might happen, that, it might go in your favor. These, these feelings, okay, gut feelings. And I had it for this game. Let's look at the stats here. Josh Dix, 16 points, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, minimum 2 turnovers. It doesn't say turnovers on Google here. Peyton Sandfort, 17 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. See, this is solid. If Iowa's top 2 guys can minimum have 30 points combined, Iowa is in good shape. Lajai Dembele, 8 points, 9 rebounds. Very solid. It's good to see him continue to improve and take ownership of the need for him to rebound. That's what I always said when he was in the starting lineup with Owen Freeman, is he was not going to be the biggest offensive weapon in that lineup. What he needed to focus on is his rebounding and defensive capabilities to give Iowa some added elements. There's only so many shots to go around. There's only one basketball on the court. So we're starting to see that. And 8 points is not bad. I think, 6 points is the bare minimum for him in the starting lineup. Drew Thelwell, 5 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. He's kind of taken a step back from his injury, but he's still playing hard. He was a bit better in the Nebraska game. Seydou Traore had a nice steal in the second half that led to a breakaway dunk. He had 4 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. Brock Harding, 15 points, 3 assists, and 2 rebounds. Price Harding, 10 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist. Evan Bronze, 2 points, 1 rebound, and 3 assists. And then Carter Kingsbury, zeros across the board. So, there you guys have it. Let's look at the team stats here. We're at 15 minutes on the video. Iowa shot 54%, or 58% if you round up. Ohio State shot 42%, so Iowa held them to 42%. That is excellent. That's 2 games in a row. Iowa's done a great job with that. And you can see it in their effort. They are making sure that every shot, or nearly every shot, is contested, that they are making the opposing team work for their points. That's all defense is about, guys, is making your opponent work for every bucket that they get so that they don't feel so comfortable like Wisconsin did. And then you're in real trouble because they're arrogantly confident, but it's justifiable because you are allowing them to do whatever they want. You want to make them feel uncomfortable by making them earn everything, because as the game wears on, it starts to take a toll. 3-pointers. Iowa shot 42%. Ohio State 23%. 9 to 10 from the free throw line for Iowa, which is great, but they only shot 10 free throws. Ohio State shot 20. Not a surprise they led in that on that front. 75%. The bias always leans in their favor. Rebounds 34-30 in Ohio State's favor. See, I'm okay with that. I told you guys previous video. As long as it's within 5 rebounds, 3 to 5 rebounds, I'm okay with that. Once you start getting over that, then it's a huge out rebounding, and then you're starting to get in trouble. And if you compound that with bad defensive effort as well, and it's just done, you're going to give up way more points than you should. They did still give up 16 offensive rebounds to Ohio State. They did good on the defensive glass. But Ohio State had 16 offensive rebounds. Iowa only had 7. And Iowa had 23 defensive rebounds compared to Ohio State's 18. Iowa had 18 assists compared to Ohio State's 11. Blocks 6-1 in favor of Iowa. Steals 7-5 in favor of Ohio State. Turnovers, Iowa had 1 more turnover than Ohio State. Fouls 16-15, 1 more for Iowa than Ohio State. So there you guys have it. Everything that I'm seeing and analyzing is for next year. Okay, I'm under no illusion Iowa will not make the NCAA tournament this year. They would have to. Iowa has been in striking distance all year long. They've kind of been in the 50 to 70 range. But to comfortably make the NCAA tournament, you have to be top 50 to 55 if you're a Power 4 level team, with certain quality wins to make the NCAA tournament. And Iowa's biggest problem is not necessarily their quad 1, quad 2 record, because they, if you combine the two, it's not bad. Not as good as it could be, but definitely not bad. Their quad 1 is terrible. They're 2-13 with this victory, I believe. But it's how Iowa has lost in the games that they have lost. There's been a few here or there that have been close, but a lot of them have been full-blown ASS whoopings, can of whoop-a's, okay? So, and how you win and how you lose does play a factor in your net ranking. Iowa is 2-14 in quad 1 games. They're 6-0 in quad 2 and 2-1 in quad 3. If they didn't have that quad 3 loss, I do believe that they'd be about 5 spots higher at this point in time. I was really hopeful that that loss could move to a quad 3 loss or a quad 2 loss. But it's, when you're at home, the only teams that are okay to lose to realistically are like the top 30 teams in the country. Outside of that, it's going to be, because quad 2 home is 31-75. And, actually it's top 75. So if you're not top 75, it's going to be a quad 3 loss. So the margin is not as big as on the road. So, but everything that I'm seeing is for next year. Like I said, Brock Harding, his development, Price Sanford, I have liked both of their developments as the season has gone on. I think Iowa does have a true starting point guard going into next year. I think this year probably was a little bit too soon for Brock Harding. He could have done it if he had a better surrounding team. But to be like a key contributor without a stronger supporting cast, but in the end, do I personally believe that Iowa's other point guard is that much better than Brock Harding? No. Drew Thelwell? No. But there's other elements that he gives that kind of make it easier to just place him in the starting lineup than a Brock Harding. He competes really hard. He's obviously a leader. You can tell that he's won a lot of games, things like that. But those two guys' development, Seydou Traore is getting a lot of great minutes for next year. People forget he's only a sophomore this year. He's going to be a junior next year. Lajai, as well as Lajai Dembele. I mean, these are all valuable minutes for next year. And Iowa is just playing at this point for pride, to finish the season as strong as possible. Did I say that I wasn't going to include the Big Ten tournament in my final video on whether Fran McCaffery? I can't remember if I did. I do think I'm going to wait until after Iowa. I think I said I'm going to wait until Iowa is exited from the Big Ten tournament. Is there any chance that Iowa can make the NCAA tournament, guys? I think that they would definitely have to beat Illinois. That's kind of the good thing about being a 15 seed is you have multiple opportunities to pick up multiple extra victories. I don't think so. I think it's like a 2%, 1% chance. It's probably statistically impossible. But if they beat Illinois, that would bolster their resume quite a bit. I mean, where they're at right now, without this win being added to their net ranking, they are 65th. And as I said, to me, to be considered, they would have to be like net top 55. Probably because of how late in the season Iowa is in this surge, probably top 50, because the committee is they're human beings as well. These people start to have their minds kind of made up. So, anyways, guys, I don't want this video to be too long. We're right at 24 minutes. Let me know what you guys think. Did this win change your mind, even in the slightest? About things, does it make it worse? To me, just to wrap this up, it's very much bittersweet. And I know that that's a bailout answer, but it's bittersweet because on one hand, this is the Iowa team that I knew that they could be, where they consistently beat teams like Ohio State and Nebraska. Maybe not the echelon, but they could compete with those teams, but may not beat the top echelon. Although, man, Iowa really especially if you think about where things, just one or two games here or there can make the difference. Just hear me out, guys. I know I said 25, but think about if Iowa had been able to beat Iowa State. Think about if they were able to somehow steal that Michigan game at the beginning of the year. Think about, and even that one I don't want to count too much. Think about if they were able to close out a victory against Michigan State like they should have, and on top of that beating Nebraska. Just think how much things would be different. I mean, if Iowa gets those games, they're top 55 in the net, no problem. So, these things are. I think it's important to really collectively look at things, and they're not. The differences are not as pronounced as you might think, and this is why I'm not like necessarily completely off the Fran train, because it's not like they're below the top 100 in the net. I mean, they're still on the cusp, but it's very much bittersweet because this is the team that I knew they could be, but at the end of the day, Fran still deserves accountability and responsibility for not getting this team there sooner and not having this team ready to beat and close out some of those games that they should have closed out at other points in the season. So anyways, guys, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment. Y'all know the drill. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy with all facts or feelings, because your feelings just matter. I love you, Hawk fans. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.